So to me, episode 7 of season 3 of Succession, Too Much Birthday, it was peak Succession. This is everything that I have wanted from this show and haven't always felt like we were getting this season. To me, it's been a little bit uneven. Now, don't get me wrong. I flat out love this show. I can tend to be a little bit overly negative, but I'm really glad to have this season. There's been something I enjoyed about every episode, even if I didn't feel that the perfection of the previous 2 seasons was there. And I guess some of this might have had to do with limitations on filming this season, and some of it might have to do with figuring out ways to keep this show going on forever. I had assumed that they were thinking like 4 or 5 seasons, but perhaps with this success, they're thinking, how can we go 8 seasons? How can we go 9 seasons? How can we go 10 seasons? And if that's the case, you can kind of see them starting to try and figure out ways to keep the snake swallowing its own tail forever. And if that's the case, I think as long as they continue to have episodes like this that are just pure enjoyment from beginning to end, I'll still be in it even if the show isn't as plot-rich as it used to be. Just the character development in this episode was fantastic. And what I really liked about it was once you look past the elaborate production design and the very, very energetic atmosphere with the pumping music and, you know, just really, really interesting location, I think this was one of the better parties Succession has thrown, possibly the best party Succession has ever thrown. I think that it was really, really simple moral. The tragedy of Kendall that was really, really well expressed in a visual way at the end of this episode, symbolically, and how they showed that his life is so cluttered with all these presents that were kind of thoughtlessly given to him by people he doesn't know and who don't really care about him and don't really know him, that he can't find this simple gift that was given to him by his own children for his 40th birthday. And the tragedy of this is that his life is so cluttered with all this stuff that he doesn't need, that's not fulfilling him, that's not making him happy, because of his need to be the successor, because of his need to be in charge, that he's missing out on real relationships. You see this in the scene between him and his ex-wife, Rava, and you see it in the fact that he can't find this one present that is meaningful, and the present that he is given, although possibly very, very expensive, is something that he doesn't really need, or he has one, and it doesn't seem to have had any particular thought put into it. So to me, you look at this episode as Kendall thinks that he's having a great birthday party, but suddenly, as the episode goes on, gradually begins to realize that, oh wait, this is all rather empty and meaningless, isn't it? And the title, Too Much Birthday, the creator of the show, Jesse Armstrong, kind of brought up how this is taken from a Bernstein Bears book. And it's such a simple title, but I think it really expresses what's going on in this episode so well. And it was just an episode that was chock full of goodness. I think this was the closest thing to a perfect episode I've seen so far this season. Connor was being typical Connor, just the little touches, refusing to take his jacket off out of some desire to prove his libertarian rights. And, you know, that they worked in the fact that the actor had a real life injury into this episode, and it still fit. I thought that was awesome. The writing of Greg's character, something that my wife has often pointed out to me, is that she loves how, as we've rewatched this show, every episode Greg is on his own little side journey that has kind of a complete arc over the course of the episode, but it's completely disconnected from everyone else. Like sometimes it will send him into other people's orbit. Kendall was quite mean to him this episode, and, you know, at the end of the day, though, he's on his own quest, and he completes it on his own. In this episode, it's his desire to ask out this girl who is Kendall's assistant. And, of course, Greg and Kendall both think she's out of his league, but Greg, I think, stumbled upon the one thing that he could have said to her that would have convinced her to go out with him, and that's that Kendall doesn't want her to, which apparently, you know, was I think probably the one thing that Greg could have said to get her to go out with him, but she didn't seem too keen on the possibility at first. I'm sure she was aware that Greg was interested, but realizing that it was something that she could do to strike out at Kendall was the thing that got her to go ahead and do it. I loved the scenes with Tom and Greg this episode, as always. Again, I love the production design. I loved the artfulness of all of it and the creativity on display, but I think that what was great was that it didn't overwhelm the episode. It was there to complement the character interactions. The way that Greg reacted Tom reacted in the compliment tunnel, because he's someone who is so disingenuous a lot of the time that he can't take other people's compliments at face value. He has to assume that there's some veiled insult. I thought that was great. I thought earlier in the episode, a scene that will probably get forgotten because most of the episode was the party. I loved the scene where Greg hears from Logan that the DA is probably going to close the case and that they're probably going to not send anyone to prison. They're just going to give a monetary amount and then it's all going to be done with. I thought that was fantastic, the reaction that Tom had when he went in and flipped Greg's desk. And Matthew Macfadyen is a great actor. I've always felt like his accent was a little off-putting, but I think that the way he kept this character grounded as he went through these crazy emotional reactions, flipping the desk, pumping his chest with his fist, and jumping up on this cabinet, just really, really great acting. I also thought this episode really, even though Logan wasn't really a major presence in this episode, again, he made himself felt even just through this birthday card that he gave to Kendall, offering Kendall a way out, but also sowing these seeds of doubt in Kendall about whether or not he actually has a chance to take down his father. And this season has kind of been gradually undoing all the work of the finale of season 2, getting things back to the place where Kendall is the underdog, and it really seems like no one can take Logan down. Roman clearly thinks that he is in his father's good graces, that he is the new chosen one. And in some ways it's interesting because he can be the most empathetic sibling at times, but he also seems to have this ability to just play the game and ignore what it means for other people. I think that, at the end of this episode, he was incredibly cruel to both Kendall and Shiv and the things that he said to them. He had these really, really profound insights into them. But again, I think that the heartlessness he showed, it wasn't personal. It's that he has to play the game and he knows that, and he's getting inside their head the same way that Logan did with his birthday card to Kendall. So, I think that in some ways he is his father's child. And even though he lacks the experience of Kendall and Shiv, his ability to read people is on full display this episode. I thought it was really interesting. I think it's pretty obvious from the trailer for next week that Roman got played, that Alexander Skarsgård's character isn't really interested in having a deal with the Roy family, that he just wants to get other bidders interested to give to get more money for his product. It cracked me up when they showed the Star Go app that it was clearly the HBO Go app. You could see the little Go symbol that was really, really similar to the HBO Go symbol, and them laughing at how slow the app was. I'm like, is this like an inside joke? They're making fun of their own app. I thought that was great stuff. So great episode. Really, really enjoyed it. But those are just my thoughts for what they are worth. Let me know what you thought in the comments. Shout out to the director of this episode, Lorene Scafaria. She's the director of Hustlers, a film I didn't really care for, but she did great work here. Let me know what you thought of her directing. Let me know what you thought of this episode on the whole. If there were any other moments that I forgot to bring up that stood out to you. And if you're interested in seeing my upcoming reviews of other shows, either my initial thoughts or just like my weekly reviews, please consider subscribing. I know I've been inconsistent lately. Please forgive me. I have to live with myself. Hopefully you can forgive me too. And as always, just thanks for watching. I really appreciate hearing from you and getting to interact in the comments. So until next time.